Welcome, dear friends, to our new episode of At the Edge of the Unknown. In this episode, we'll be talking about Wewelsburg Castle, Himmler's Camelot. Heinrich Himmler is known as many things: the second most powerful in Hitler's Germany, the head of the Schutzstaffel, and the architect of the final solution. He was considered the best educated of the Nazi leaders. But he was also a practitioner of a mixture of Germanic superstitions, neo-paganism, and Eastern philosophy, though the latter was Aryanized in order to fit it into a pan-Germanic ideology. And while there are different schools of thought in regards to Hitler's views on the occult, historians and scholars tend to agree that Himmler himself was an avid believer in, and even practitioner of, the occult. And while Hitler is the primary antagonist of the Second World War, Heinrich Himmler's influence cannot be dismissed so easily, nor can his obsession be overlooked. It was Himmler that was most responsible for turning Nazi ideology into a system of esotericism, conditioning the body, mind, and spirit of his initiates in the SS. If comparing the Nazis to the romantic medieval ideal, Himmler would be Merlin to Hitler's Arthur, his priest, his magician. And in the summer of 1934, Himmler found his Camelot in the form of a castle, built during the Renaissance in the early 17th century. The region was the ancestral home to Arminius, who defeated the Romans in the Teutoburg forest, and was in the middle of the former pagan Saxon Empire. According to Himmler's Crusade, Christopher Hale's book, Himmler wished Wewelsburg to be a pagan Vatican city, where the SS elite would receive spiritual and worldview training. In short, a factory of neo-pagan, pan-Germanic acolytes. Hale also wrote that in Wewelsburg North Tower, Himmler knew he had found the perfect fortress for the SS, a Camelot, where he could mold the hearts and minds of his officers. To this end, over 1,000 prisoners, brought in from Sachsenhausen, the concentration camp, were worked to death, tearing down and then rebuilding parts of the castle. Now, historically, in many forms of paganism, human sacrifices were an integral part of ritual. According to SS Brigadeführer Walter Schellenberg, the castle was adapted to serve as a sort of SS monastery, and there a secret chapter of the order assembled each year. They had to devote themselves to a ritual of spiritual exercises, aimed mainly at concentration, the equivalent of prayer, before discussing the higher policy of the SS. Now, researchers, including scientists, were forced to live in cell-like rooms while they investigated the, quote, foundations of German culture, unquote. Himmler stated, "We need neither a fossilized scientist nor a dreamer." And to Himmler, the SS was not just an elite fighting unit, but a secret religious order, and each member was a secret initiative thereof. There are many alive today with beliefs we may disagree with, beliefs which may hold human life in cheap regard, if any at all. The primary difference between Himmler and others who hold those beliefs is that Heinrich Himmler had the influence and the means with which to bring his ideology to pass. And history shows us that ideology alone is not necessarily dangerous, but it also shows us that ideology and the power with which to implement it, particularly on such a massive scale, can be a terrifying, even deadly thing. Thank you for listening. This is our latest episode on At the Edge of the Unknown.